Before the Great Pyramids reached skyward in Egypt, before Greece gave rise to philosophy, there were the Sumerians, a people who dared to carve civilization out of the wilderness. And yet, for centuries, their story was forgotten. Buried beneath layers of sand, their cities faded into myth, their achievements swallowed by the passage of time. It was as if history itself had turned the page, leaving the Sumerians behind. For thousands of years, they remained invisible. But in the 19th century, the sands of Mesopotamia began to yield their secrets. Adventurers and scholars, led by figures like Sir Austin Henry Layard, stumbled upon ruins that defied imagination. Among them was Uruk, the first great city humanity ever built. Here, clay tablets spoke for the Sumerian, bearing inscriptions in a language no one had seen before. Slowly, the world began to understand. This was the birthplace of civilization. The Sumerians were unlike anything the world had known. They left no descendants to carry their name, no monuments like those of the pharaohs. And yet, their fingerprints are everywhere. Babylon, Assyria, even the time we measure in hours and minutes, these all trace their roots back to Sumer. But how could such an influential civilization disappear, only to be rediscovered by accident? That is the question that still haunts their story. In the fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Sumerians turned scattered villages into something entirely new: cities. Uruk, their crown jewel, was not just a city, it was a marvel. With towering walls stretching over 6 miles and a population rivaling that of medieval London, it became a beacon of human innovation. Imagine walking its streets. Traders haggled over goods from distant lands, farmers brought their harvest to bustling markets, and priests ascended towering ziggurats to offer prayers to the gods. But this wasn't chaos, it was order. The Sumerians were the first to design cities with purpose, using grids and organized layouts to structure their growing populations. They didn't just adapt to their environment, they mastered it. They built irrigation canals to tame the unpredictable rivers, turning barren land into fertile fields. And in the heart of their cities stood the ziggurat, a temple that wasn't merely a place of worship, but a symbol of their ambition. These were no ordinary cities, they were humanity's first steps toward the modern world. And yet these achievements raise questions. How did they imagine such bold designs in a time so distant? How did they overcome the challenges of their environment to create something so enduring? These cities were not just built for survival, they were built for legacy. The Sumerians were not just builders, they were inventors, dreamers, and problem solvers. They gave the world its first written language, cuneiform. At first it was a tool for survival, used to record trade and manage resources. But soon it became much more. Through cuneiform they preserved stories, laws, and wisdom, laying the foundation for all written communication that followed. And then there was the wheel. Before its invention, the world moved only as fast as human strength or river currents would allow. The Sumerians changed that. They took a simple concept, a round disc, and turned it into a tool that revolutionized trade, transportation, and even warfare. It's hard to imagine our modern world without the wheel, yet its origins lie here in the plains of Sumer. Their brilliance extended beyond tools to the abstract. They devised a mathematical system based on 6D, a framework that still governs the way we measure time and angles. Every second that ticks by, every minute we count, carries the legacy of the Sumerians. These innovations weren't accidents. They were solutions born from necessity and vision. In a world where survival was a daily challenge, the Sumerians looked beyond the present, shaping tools and systems that would stand the test of time. They didn't just solve problems, they transformed the way humanity thought about what was possible. The Sumerian cities were more than centers of trade and innovation. They were sanctuaries of the divine. At the heart of every city stood a ziggurat, rising like a mountain carved by human hands. These were not mere temples, they were sacred bridges between the mortal and the eternal, reaching skyward as if to meet the gods themselves. Their pantheon was as vivid and complex as their civilization. Anu, the ruler of the heavens, Enki, the god of wisdom and water, and Inanna, the goddess of love and war, shaped their understanding of the world. These deities were not distant, they were deeply woven into daily life. Every harvest, every storm, every sunrise was seen as the work of divine forces. And then there is their legacy in literature. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written nearly 5,000 years ago, is humanity's first great story. It tells of a king's search for immortality, his struggles with loss, and his quest for meaning. The questions Gilgamesh asked about life, legacy, and the passage of time are the same questions we ask today. His journey is a reminder that while centuries separate us, the human spirit remains the same. Even their art speaks across the ages. Intricate sculptures, delicate pottery, and detailed cylinder seals tell stories of their world. These artifacts were more than decoration. They were expressions of their beliefs, their triumphs, and their struggles. They remind us that the Sumerians saw beauty not just in the monumental, but in the everyday. Through their myths, their stories, and their creations, the Sumerians sought to understand the world and their place within it. And though their voices are ancient, they echo with a clarity that transcends time, whispering to us about the enduring human desire to reach beyond the horizon. The story of the Sumerians is more than the story of a forgotten people. It is the story of humanity's first great leap towards civilization. They built cities where none had stood. They created tools and systems that shaped the future. They dared to dream of a world beyond their own, leaving a legacy that still shapes us today. And yet, their story raises profound questions. How could such a civilization so foundational to human history vanish from our collective memory? What else might we have lost to time? And perhaps most importantly, what can we learn from rediscovering the Sumerians about ourselves, about our potential, and about the fragility of even the greatest achievements? These are the questions that keep us searching, for buried beneath the sands there are still whispers of the past, waiting to be uncovered. The Sumerians remind us that history is not just a record of what has been, it is a guide to what can be. The towering ziggurats and bustling markets of Sumer were the backdrop to lives as complex and vibrant as our own. But what was it like to live in the shadow of these achievements? To wake up in the world's first city? To navigate the rhythms of life in humanity's earliest civilization? In the next part of this video series, we step away from the monuments and into the city, planning the governance, the streets, the homes, and the hearts of the Sumerian people. We'll uncover their daily lives, their struggles, and their dreams, and see how, even in the distant past, the human experience was as rich and layered as it is today. Join us as we continue this journey through history's first great civilization. Subscribe now, and don't miss the stories that shaped our world.